one of the last deadlines that was left before the start of the NBA season is the rookie scale extension deadlines. And we got a number of players from Christian Braun to Dyson Daniels to Camara. We got a lot of players that got their extension on their rookie deals. We're going to talk about it all and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content today, y'all. And we're going to start off with Christian Braun. He agreed to a $125 million contract extension with the Denver Nuggets. Now, keep in mind, people will remember that he was one of the players that were brought up as, that caused some type of, disagreement between Mike Malone and the front office when it came down to it. But for what it's worth, Christian Braun, who is part of that Nuggets core now, and this is a core that feels like they've done enough job with adding the depth and other things needed around Jokic, and that they want to start locking in some players. And regardless of how you look at Christian Braun, this still is really going to come down to how you view not only him as a player right now, but still the potential of what he has to turn into. And that's going to be how a lot of people judge this deal. I've already seen people call this an overpay. And, based off the talent and things like that, Braun hit a huge leap last year, right? And I'm always kind of somebody who is weary when it's only been 1 year of a player, hitting a number before you give them a major contract extension. He basically doubled his output scoring-wise last season, not only in both, shot attempts, but also in points. Last year, he averaged 15.4 points per game. The year before that, 7.3. Now, he also was basically a 40% three-point shooter, 39.7%, 58% overall from the field, going up 12% from the season prior to that, and 9% from when he shot 49% as a rookie, but he was only taking 4 shots at that point in time. This guy also averaged 4 rebounds, almost 3 assists, over a steal per game. Christian Braun has some stat sheet stuffing ability for sure. And like I said, the ultimate thing in this and how you view this deal is going to be, how do you view what he still has left to turn into? What is still left to uncover about Christian Braun's game? And that's where you're going to have to get it. That's where you're going to have to, make that determination. And clearly the Nuggets looked at this at their 24-year-old player who won't turn 25 until the end of the regular season. And they said, hey, this is a player that we want to invest in the long term, and having him here and not having to worry about it. And I can't be mad. He's been there the whole time. 5 years, $125 million. It's a lot of money. Make no mistake about it. But I do think, like I've said many times before, we're heading into a world where you're going to see a lot of players like this. The starter level money now is going to be between $20 and $25 million for a lot of players, and upwards of $30 million depending on where you are and what accolades that you have hit. And that's just where things are going. It doesn't mean that every starter is going to be making that money, because you got to look at rookies. There are going to be some starters that are veterans that are going to be making less or whatever else, and players that had disappointing starts to their career that get into that. But if you are projected to be a starter, you've been a starter for a while with some proven kind of cachet to your name, you're looking at 20 to 25 million probably as a minimum, with some specialists making even more than that. So, that's just what it comes down to. I feel like you've locked in a player that you drafted 21 overall just a few years ago that has developed under your team, has chemistry with Jokic, all those type of things. And I don't see this as could it be an overpay? Absolutely. But there's also an equal chance that this can end up being a deal that by the end of this, especially with Christian Braun, by the end of this 5-year deal, being 29 years old and still in his prime, that you could look at and say, hey, he outplayed this because he's barely scratched the surface. Keep in mind, last season was his first year as a full-time starter. He had only started 10 total games his first 2 years in the NBA. He started 77 games last season for the Denver Nuggets. So this is a guy that still has a lot of his game that's left. He still has a lot of development that's still possible to be done for him. And Christian Braun gets his 5-year, $125 million deal. Hats off to you, young fella, for getting paid. But that's not it. Over the weekend as well, we got a couple of deals as well, as Shaedon Sharpe got a $90 million contract with the Portland Trail Blazers. This is after Toumani Camara got his money as well, locking him in there. Now the Portland Trail Blazers have spent over $70 million to keep those guys. So, it is what it is. There were some reports that Shaedon Sharpe could, look for a deal that was north of $100 million. That doesn't happen here, so it's still a contract. And much like with Christian Braun, the way that you view this contract is going to, in large part, come down to how do you view the talent and how do you view what there's still left to uncover about their game. Shaedon Sharpe is 22 years old. He averaged 18.5 points per game last season. He was in the top 50 scorers in the NBA last season. Shot the ball a decent percentage from the field at 45%, which is really good to see. The three-point shooting is still not there from 31% three-point shooter, but also 4 rebounds, 3 assists, almost a steal per game, right? Doesn't turn the ball over a lot. Less than 2 turnovers a game for his career. So there's definitely some things that you look at Shaedon, and this is a guy that, Shaedon definitely isn't done developing. The sky's still the limit for Shaedon Sharpe. I think this is a guy that also you're going to want to keep. He was drafted 7th overall. Getting him at 4 years, $90 million is a pretty decent contract there for Shaedon, right? Especially when, like I said, we heard that he could want over $100 million. So you're getting $22.5 million for Shaedon Sharpe to get here. And he is a core piece for this Portland Trailblazers team. Keep in mind, this is also a Portland team that is hopeful that they are going to be, competing for the playoffs this year, play in or try to make some postseason appearances. So you lock in Shaedon Sharpe here. I think he's so instrumental to what they're doing there. You don't want to let him go. But then they also locked in Toumani Camara, and this is a great deal for Toumani Camara. This is a guy that I like him. The defensive ability that this kid has is ridiculous, and he's still polishing out his game and could still potentially be a player that can still stretch the floor a little bit and turn into a better shooter overall. But now you have him locked in also. You got him on an $82 million rookie contract extension, which is really good for him. Get him before the deadline. He is 25 years old. 4 years, $82 million is a solid deal for him, I think, as well. So you get both these guys locked in. You get them locked in at reasonable prices, right? Nothing even near what the max. They didn't qualify for anything more than that. But you look at him and how he's developed as a two-way player. And two-way players are still extremely valuable in the NBA. His defense is his calling card. But let's be clear, he still averaged 11 points per game last season on 45% shooting, almost 46, and 37% shooting from 3. If you're talking about a guy who still is developing as a shooter, right, only now going into his 3rd year in the NBA, if this guy develops even further as a shooter, you got him in the 2nd round at pick 52. That is tremendous value that you're already seeing out of him, and the fact that he's shown himself to be a core player for this Portland Trailblazers team, and you now got him locked in as well. And so, I love this deal for Camara. I think because of his defensive ceiling, whatever he brings offense is kind of added on top of all of that. Not to say that you want him to completely slack off offensively, because no, you don't want that. But this is still a guy that definitely is going to be able to continue to give you a lot. You got him at $20.5 million. So now you're paying less than $45 million for your starting two and both your starting wings. And I think that that's a really good place to be in, considering the youth of this team, how this team is still planning to develop, right, and not get stuff done. And you still got some things you're going to have to add to this team over years too. And as that develops, you're also looking at how that's going to pay off for this team. So I love the 2 contract extensions here. I really like what Portland's doing. I know the wins haven't stacked up for them yet. They're hoping that this is going to be the season where that starts coming around for them, and that they are hoping to get into that bag of being able to get a postseason experience and develop that way as well. And those things are really good. But we're not done. Dyson Daniels also, this just happened while I was recording, actually, and it was reported that they were about $30 million away on a contract with the Atlanta Hawks and Dyson Daniels. They now have agreed to a 4-year, $100 million deal. It's going to get him $25 million per year. And man, this is great. I think that, Dyson Daniels has a special knack at getting to the ball, right, at steals. There are some things as an on-ball defender he still needs to be better at, and I think those things, you've seen the signs of those things coming around. But keep in mind, he gets his extension before Trey. Now, his extension is going to be much less than Trey, but he's one of the players that the Atlanta Hawks are looking at and saying, hey, we got to see how Trey fits with these young guys before we lock Trey in, or we're going to pivot and focus on these young guys. Dyson Daniels is such a good player, and he's good at what he does, and he has a knack and a desire to be great, right? He puts in that work. One of his best friends is Josh Giddey with the Chicago Bulls, and I think they share an agent. They basically got the same deal as well, right? But this Atlanta Hawks team is looking to make their move this season. And so locking in your young guys, your young core, before you ultimately make a decision on trade, it just makes everything even and gives you a full picture of what you're looking at. But Dyson, even with his defensive prowess, still averaged 14 points per game, 6 rebounds per game, almost 5 assists per game, shot the ball 49% from the field, which is really good to see from him. And, not a three-point threat yet, 34% from three. He takes 3 of them per game, but this guy fills up the stat sheet. 3 steals per game is what he averaged. That is a special skill. And like I said, a knack and talent at getting to the ball. And now we get to see Dyson Daniels continue to develop. He's 22 years old, still very young, locks in for 4 years. And when he gets back, he'll be 26 when he gets back on the market. And if he keeps going the way that he's going, he's going to get so much more money the next time out. So shout out to Dyson Daniels on that one. Now, from that to a team that's maintaining cap flexibility. The Cleveland Cavaliers waived 7 players, and they cut their roster to 14 before the start of the season. Keep in mind, rosters have to be finalized by 5 p.m. Eastern today. The Cleveland Cavaliers are leaving that door open because reportedly they are leaving a spot open if they can attract Malik Beasley once this all kinds of settle with Malik Beasley. The Cavs are going after. And, that just shows forethought of leaving a roster spot open to where you can get a guy that you need to get in here, that you want to get in here, that can add some shooting and some touch for you as well. And so, listen, shout out to them for preparing for the Malik Beasley thing. If they can get him out here, they maintain that flexibility. And so now, leaving a roster spot open, the Cavs are going to be looking to use that roster spot on Malik Beasley if and when he becomes available, if he wants to come there. And so the Cavs, they're hoping for health this season. They're hoping to make a considerable leap, and they already have a pretty solid and strong bench. You add Malik Beasley with his ability to stretch the floor to that Cavs team, man, that's going to be tough. That's going to be real tough, if you're an opponent of the Cleveland Cavaliers. So we'll see how that's going to go. But those are the updates for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys are following us at NBA Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything basketball related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, I catch you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Prior tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.